It Takes Two, Amy Eiler, JJ Gordon, and I'm apprehensive. I don't want to play the theme because it is not plant talk just yet, but heck, it is 42 degrees. We're looking for potentially to break another record today. Yesterday we smashed the record yesterday. We got to 52 degrees yesterday. And just for some comparison's sake about what is going on right now with our weather, because it is just bizarre. And Dave Decock is standing by. We're going to talk about how it's impacting our perennials and our trees. But, okay, yesterday we hit 52 degrees, which I alarmed people because I, like a crazy person, got up and started running outside. I was like, hold on, we need to get outside and take a picture of us at 50 degrees on January 31st. The record originally yesterday was 44 degrees, set in 2009.
Smashed it,
52. Today's record is 45, set in 1931. Tutal says he thinks we're going to hit a new record high of 46. We're at 42 right now. Doesn't really matter what we're at. Actually, Hector International Airport has the official reading in Fargo, and I'm not sure where that's at. We'll figure that out. I know the newsroom is keeping track of it, too, to see if we smash that record. But there's some concerns in the Twin Cities about their trees budding out. There's some concern that there's no snow cover around these parts. You know, we were just talking a couple of weeks ago, hey, take the little bit of snow that we have and pile them on your perennials if you're worried. Well, even those snow piles have melted a bit. We've got nothing left.
Kind of want to get my lawnmower out.
Dave Decock, the king of all things green, our horticulturalist, star of Plant Talk, the longest running show on KFGO. Dave, welcome to KFGO Radio again.
Well, it's great to be back.
Okay, so it does feel like we should start Plant Talk. I think when we started Plant Talk last year, we were barely at 42 degrees, and now we're at 42 degrees on February 1st. But yesterday, people were very concerned about their trees and their perennials. Tell me if we should be as concerned as we are.
Well, the reason to be concerned is it's so abnormal and we don't know what's going to happen. I guess I don't know either. I know things that could happen, but not necessarily will they happen.
What do we need to do to protect? You know, I planted a lot of perennials last year. What should I do to protect them going forward? Because there's not a lot of snow cover.
I don't really know if there is anything you can do to protect them. You know, it's the ones I think are in the worst condition are people who planted lawns last fall, especially if it was late and it wasn't well rooted, or if they laid sod late and it wasn't rooted down good before winter. Those are all going to be a problem. The other thing, newly planted plants last fall, that would be a problem. Any plant that's fairly tender that needs a snow cover and doesn't have it is in danger, especially if we get some really cold weather from now on with it being bare.
Okay, let me ask you this, Dave. We had such an incredibly mild beginning to the winter. Could that potentially help out, or did things go dormant when they normally went dormant?
Well, they pretty much went dormant when they would go dormant. You know, certain things like ash trees, certain time in the fall of the year, they lose their leaves, whatever the weather is like, because they're sensitive to day length, so they lost their leaves. Now, other things like elms and some of those, they're not so likely to do that. They tend to lose their leaves more based on the temperature. So that was the reason we lost leaves so late in the fall on some plants. But there are plants like mums. If you got mums outside, we don't cut them back in the fall because we need the snow cover to protect them for the winter. Well, they may be okay. We really don't know. It's going to depend a lot on what the weather in the future happens to be. You know, if we get the 20, 30 below again for a couple of weeks, they're going to be in a hurt bag because there's just no protection and they're just not ready for it. But we really don't know what's going to happen in the future. The other thing that tends to happen with weather is if you get warm weather in the winter or periods of warm weather, then the summer, it tends to balance out. So what tends to happen is we may end up having a late spring again, a cold late spring. So it's really hard to say now what's going to happen. But some things that are sensitive are things that typically would be sensitive to winter, and we need the snow protection.
Okay, someone was asking about their fruit tree being concerned about sun scald. Is that what should they do to prevent any sun
Well,
scalding?
see, sun scalding is more of a problem. Sun scalding can be a problem on apple trees any winter because they are thin barked, and the sun during the day warms up the south side or southwest side of the tree. Then at night, when it gets really cold, of course, it kills those cells that started to warm up. So I don't know with the weather the way it is now. Sun scald would be maybe less of a problem than it normally would be.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. We just never had this situation, but sun scald can be a real problem, even if it's 30. Even if we have 30 below nights, sun scald can still be a problem.
Do you have any predictions for the groundhog tomorrow, Dave?
No, not really. I think Too Tall's got to take a guess on that. He knows what's coming,
I was
so
just
he
curious.
can tell. Yeah, no, it's just that when we have mild winters, we tend to have late springs. So hopefully that's not the case because last spring was the pits. It never did warm up decent. Then when it did, it got 80 degrees.
Yeah, we really didn't have a spring last
year. The thing with trees, if they do leaf out and they get froze later, that's happened in normal years, where they'll start to leaf out and then it gets really cold and it kills those buds that are leafing out. But trees usually have secondary buds that will leaf out later. If their first leaf out fails, usually they've got secondary buds that will leaf out later. So usually that's not a problem.
Dave, do you think this will do anything to evergreens? I mean, if you watered them in well in the fall, will this take extra?
Well, I'm afraid it will. It depends on how much frost we have in the ground.
And
because we did get a lot of rain in December and those times. So if the ground wasn't froze deep at that time, maybe some of that moisture went down to the evergreens. If it did, it will be as if you had watered them in good. I know my sump pump was running in December, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we ended up having a flood warning as a New Year's present, maybe. Maybe that if all that water soaked in and the ground wasn't so froze that it all ran off, maybe that'll save the evergreens.
To JJ's
big problem with evergreens is they towards spring when it warms up, if the ground is still froze, there's no way for an evergreen to get more moisture, and the needles lose moisture continuously, especially if it's warm and windy. So if the ground's deeply froze now with the weather we've got now, that's going to make them more likely to brown when we get towards spring. But maybe that rain we had, maybe it actually soaked in.
To JJ's point yesterday, it just is a helpless feeling because what are you going to do? Go and take
yeah, there's really nothing you can do.
Yeah, really just wait and see, and like you said, hope for the best.
There's nothing like this that I've ever known of happened in the past, so I don't know what happened that year. So it's difficult to predict what's going to happen this year. There's some things that could happen, newly planted lawn in the fall of the year, if it wasn't very deeply rooted, and we get some cold weather, it could kill it because there is no snow there. It all depends on what the temperature from now on is going to do. If it stays like this, well, I don't know that there's going to be a big problem. But if it's bare like this, and all at once we get 30 below for a couple of weeks, well, we know there's going to be a problem.
Dave Decock is our horticulturalist every year on Plant Talk, and that begins on March 28th. And last year we spent a lot of weeks waiting for spring to happen.
Right.
It felt silly to start Plant Talk, and I hope that that's not the case this year. But like you said, sometimes with these mild winters, it seems like spring could go on forever. So that might be the case. And I guess
nature tends to balance out.
Yeah. At this point, I guess you hope that you were that person that was able to save leaves and put those over things that you wanted to insulate early.
Right. My roses, I covered them like I normally would, so hopefully that will be enough cover for them.
Yeah. Yep. It's just
I leave all my mum plants. I don't cut them back at all because I want them to hold snow. So hopefully they'll be okay. I would be surprised if they make it through the winter. My guess is they're toast, but with mums, it's kind of a thing where it's not unusual for them not to make it through the winter. So if they don't, well, I'll have to get some new ones if I want mum plants. So
You know what's interesting is that, well, last year was strange too, and this year is strange as well. But are you starting anything? You don't start anything indoors, do you, Dave?
Usually not. I'm going to start some marigolds this year because the variety that I wanted, I wasn't able to get last year. I wanted something with fairly big flowers and a gold flower, and I found the nurseries last spring, and just what I usually plant wasn't available. So marigolds are easy to start, so I'll start some of them so I have what I want. But typically, tomatoes and stuff, I don't plant enough of them to make it worth going through the effort.
Sure. That makes sense.
I can always go buy a half a dozen plants, you know what I'm saying? It's
Yep.
a lot easier than spending all that time getting lights up and all this to try and get what you want.
Yep, I understand. I think we're all anxious for it, though. This weather is making us in the mood for some plant talk.
Normally this time of the year, we're just waiting for it to get above zero. You know, so
I guess at this point, I hate to say it, but you almost maybe hope for some warmer temperatures and a dump of snow before we get cold temperatures. I guess that's our best case scenario at this point, huh, Dave?
That would be your best case scenario. Yes, I think to have some snow cover before we get. It's not likely that we're going to continue this way all through the winter and not get some really cold weather because we've had about 2 weeks of cold weather already.
Right.
And it's not unusual for February to get some cold weather, and even March. And March is notorious for getting a lot of snow. So it's hard to say what's going to happen. We'll probably have a better idea when we start the show what's going to happen.
Okay, sounds
good. Right
good.
now, there's just too many unknowns to make any real serious predictions.
Man, there's just, as JJ said yesterday, there's just nothing we can do. We're a little bit helpless here. We have to just wait it out.
Not a lick. Yeah, it's such an overwhelming situation that you just can't.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're looking for bags of leaves, where would you find the bags of leaves?
Right.
I mean, they're
Bingo,
gone.
right?
If you wanted them, you better get them in the fall, or you won't get any. So.
Yeah, it's
just we just have to wait and see. Yeah,
okay.
It's just anybody's guess.
It's just a wait and see game now. Dave
Decock, right.
The king of all things green, and I don't know. It looks like the grass might start wanting to grow here, but I hope it doesn't.
I'm not sure what the situation is, in the soil, how cold the soil is yet. I don't know. I don't know if it's froze, how deep it's froze, but
yeah, and I should have looked that up because I think Endon has like the soil temp and the soil temperatures right now, and I didn't even look that up.
Maybe your ag man will have an idea what the soil temperature is. Because usually farmers and ag, they usually keep track of what soil temperatures are. But this time of the year, we never bother because we know what the soil temperature is this time of the year. It's froze, but I don't know right now what the situation is.
February 1st. Let's see. At 2 inches, it's 31 degrees.
Okay, so it's still froze, but
barely,
not by much.
Not by much at all.
The problem is, too, if it gets really cold and it's bare, the frost goes much deeper.
Right.
Dave, it's been great chatting with you.
Yeah.
Usually we don't hear from you all winter long, but I did just write down, it looks like Plant Talk starts on March 28th.
Yep.
This year.
Right.
You got it.
Yeah.
So hop, skip, and a jump from now, we'll be talking to you, and people will be asking if they can plant grass seed, what to do about their rhubarb.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks,
actually,
Dave.
it's 2 months. It's almost 2 months away, though, JJ. So it's quite a period of time yet.
That's
right. It's going to be a while. Okay, Dave, thanks so much.
All
we
right.
appreciate checking in.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you again soon.
Anytime anything like this comes up, just give me a ring.
Okay, that's a deal. Thanks, Dave.
Sounds great, Amy. Yeah. Bye-bye.